Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Good Hearted Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about Victoria's Secret and some juicy details that I've learned. But before that, I just wanted to say please bear with me today. My camera crapped out on me, and so I'm using my phone and I still have my regular microphone. So hopefully it sounds good to you. But it's also been storming all day. I've been waiting like an hour for it to stop and I just have to get this done today. So please bear with me. I hope that you can't hear all the extra noise too much. And if you can, I'm so sorry. But I still think this will be a good and a fun episode. So I hope you enjoy it. So, about 2 weeks ago, I think, I saw that Jax on TikTok, JAX, had written a new song that was about Victoria's Secret. And I was kind of like, what the heck? What is that about? And then I listened to it and I started hearing the audio and several other TikToks. And basically, the song is really catchy, but has a very meaningful and powerful message. And she talks about how Victoria was made up by a man and that they're selling things that are not real and making girls and women think that they have to be, skin and bones to be able to purchase these products or be worthy of sexy lingerie and underwear and bras and stuff like that. And so I really just loved the lyrics of her song. And then I saw that she said that Hulu had released a Victoria's Secret documentary, and that really interests me. I don't know about you, but me, Victoria's Secret has always been like part of my life because we've got one in our mall. Now it's the Victoria's Secret and Pink. And so it takes up like, three normal little storefronts in the mall. But it's also just constantly been around. I mean, it was a big deal like in high school to have anything that had like pink on it. I think that was like new at the time. And also, it was just the place to go to get any kind of bra and underwear. Like, if you wanted something pretty, something that was good quality, something that would last, like, you went to Victoria's Secret and you couldn't afford to eat for a week after you bought something from there. But, like, that was the whole point that you splurge on yourself, you treat yourself, and you pick up a bunch of tiny underwear for $100. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that was just kind of like my experience with Victoria's Secret. And I've never purchased a lot from them in the past. Even when I was at my smallest, I had a hard time finding bras that would fit me in store, which was super frustrating because back when I was in high school, you could order online, but it was way more complicated than it is now, or just more of a hassle. Shipping cost more, or you can only order certain items and you had to fill out the paper in store or something crazy like that. And that just wasn't going to work for me. That wasn't convenient. And plus, it was way out of my price range. Like, come on. So when I heard about the documentary, I kind of just started thinking about it a little bit more and the messaging that the brand has had. And I kind of involuntarily got in my feelings about all of it. And I have a lot of emotions and a lot of feelings around Victoria's Secret and what they have stood for as a brand, and also just how they kind of changed the world and how, or at least I guess in the United States, of like body image and how girls should feel about themselves. I mean, for me, automatically, I have negative thoughts and feelings, and I just want to talk shit about Victoria's Secret. But I really just wanted to like sit in some of those feelings and watch the documentary and just give you my honest thoughts on it. I haven't watched a whole lot of it because I just haven't had the time, but I think at this point I've started the third episode, and each episode is like an hour long. I don't know why I thought it was going to be like a documentary that was like an hour and a half long and be done. No, it's a whole mini series, as I should have known because everything is a mini series these days. But I do feel like I've learned a lot and gotten a lot of insight into the brand. And before I get going on exactly what was in the documentary, I really would just like to highlight Jax. And I am so proud of her and so thankful that she made a song with such good messaging. Please go check out her TikTok. You can find the song on Spotify. And I am just so happy and thankful that my daughter gets to grow up in a very different world than what I experienced. And I'll probably get into more of my feelings on all of that later. And I'm hoping I don't get too emotional. or cry during this. I think I got it out of my system already because last week when I first started watching the documentary, I kind of dumped on Dylan all of my feelings and sadness. And so I kind of took those feelings and wrote them out in a way that would be less emotional and more to the point, but also still touching on, my true feelings on the whole thing. But also, Jax ended up doing a flash mob out in front of a Victoria's Secret, which was awesome. You should watch the TikTok. I will link it in the description here because I have cried both times I've watched it, and I haven't watched it more than that just because I'm not trying to cry every day of my life. But it is so powerful and moving. And I just would love to highlight the people that she included in that flash mob. I'm just so glad that we're seeing more and more of that on social media, and that's hopefully making big waves in our society and just making it different, making some changes that need to be made so that we as women or people who identify as women are not shitting on ourselves constantly because we don't look like a certain model, or we walk into a store and we can't relate with any of the women that we see up on the walls. So thank you to Jax. I am so thankful for this song and this TikTok video. I've already saved it. It just is so meaningful to me. And like I said, it was really powerful. And I think because of people like her doing that kind of work, we are really going to change some things in our world and continue changing them. I know lots of people have been involved in the body positivity movement and making this world a safer place for people who are not a size 6. But I just wanted to shout her out. I hope you go look at her TikTok. Okay, so now I want to get into the documentary, and it's on Hulu, and I believe it's just like Victoria's Secret. There's probably some kind of subtitle, but I'm not sure exactly what it is. I will also try to link something to that in the description in case you want to go check it out. But like I said, I only watched the first couple episodes, and so I'm not really sure which points came from which episode, but I think I went in order, kind of talking on how I felt about the first episode and then into the second one. So before I even started, like as it was starting and it was rolling and playing all of these like clips from, back in the day when the Victoria's Secret fashion show first started and the photo shoots, I literally wrote my feelings about Victoria's Secret and all I put was unattainable, which I think is huge. I think a lot of other women would also say that Victoria's Secret is unattainable, whether it's in the products that they make or the people that they use to promote their products or how they deliver our marketing images and videos and all of that stuff. And so it's definitely not reality. I think it's supposed to be unattainable. I think that is the intention. And that really sucks for some of us who would like to enjoy those products or be able to, wear that brand. So I remember several years ago when they were still doing the Victoria's Secret Angels fashion show, and all of these plus size models were speaking out about how Victoria's Secret was not hiring them for their runway show or fashion show, whatever the hell you want to call it. And they were refusing to add anybody who wasn't, thin as a rail in their show, even though they had extended some of their sizing, which the extension was like literally to extra large or something stupid like that. And I believe it was Les Wexner, which is like the owner of Victoria's Secret, or somebody very high up in the company, that released a statement saying that the show is supposed to be a fantasy. It's supposed to be, every person's dream. And plus size models just don't fit into that fantasy, which to me is just absolutely ridiculous. And these plus size models started posting pictures like on their Instagram and stuff of them in beautiful, amazing negligees and bras and underwear. And like, you're telling me this isn't a fantasy? And I'm like, good on them for doing that, because how dare some old ass white guy determine what is in everybody else's fantasy? Like, everybody has a different fantasy. Maybe that's not his fantasy, but how empowering would it be to see plus size women up on a runway stage with lots of lights and just be in sexy underwear and bra and wings? I think that would be amazing to be able to see something like that. Maybe not with the Victoria's Secret brand, but you know what I mean. And especially when I was younger, if I would have seen women that just had curves that were on something like that, that would have been huge for me and my own confidence because of how much I have worried about what my own body has looked like over the years. So I definitely learned some interesting things about Victoria's Secret from this documentary. So, first, I should have known it was like a little mom and pop business that a husband and wife had started. And basically, he wanted to start this business where you ordered lingerie for your wife out of a catalog because for men, it was embarrassing to go into a store and purchase those kinds of things. So, this was just a more private way to do it. And, they could have the catalog, take their time, pick out what they wanted, and then send in their order. And at the time, it was like way more Victorian looking, French inspired, very silky fabrics, and, a decent amount of coverage, way more modest than we see nowadays. But this was also a long time ago, right? And so Les Wexner had already owned lots of other businesses at the time and ended up making this couple an offer to buy his company. So he ended up acquiring Victoria's Secret and he added that to all the other businesses he owned, like The Limited and Lane Bryant and several other like specific retail stores. And basically, he said he wanted lots of different stores inside a mall. That way, like anybody could go in and shop at any one of his places, or maybe multiple of them in a shopping trip. And so his family basically had had some kind of business where it was very broad and they served lots of different people and customers. And kind of like they teach in business now, they're like niche down. And that's where you will make the money is when you focus on, very specific things. And so that was pretty much what Les was doing. He had The Limited, which was a limited amount of clothing, but mainly for women at the time, basically like super high end brand knockoffs is what he sold at The Limited. And then Lane Bryant, if you don't know, is like specifically for plus size people. And then, of course, Victoria's Secret is for bras and underwear. So he had lots of stores like that. And that's kind of how he made all of his money because he had all these specialized things, but he owned lots of them. So I made a note that 10 minutes into this first episode, I was laughing because I was like stunned by what they were saying in it. And Les Wexner had said these stores, Victoria's Secret stores, were designed with women in mind. And like, again, I'm not trying to speak for all women, people who identify as women, but most of the time, like, I am never going to choose a color scheme that is black and hot pink. Like, I don't know what else is more like 2005. Like, I remember my room was pink, and then I had a comforter that was black with hot pink, like pinstripes. And I just think all of my, stuff in elementary school and middle school was like that black and hot pink. And I don't think any woman would choose that color scheme. And it was like panning around these different Victoria's Secrets. And, I can even picture it all of the black, like slick, shiny looking furniture and stiff, like everything. Like everything is stiff. And to me, Victoria's Secret is so uninviting. It is very uncomfortable. And some people, you might feel like it's home, and that's great. But for me, I don't think it was designed with a woman in mind. I think maybe he helped design it, thinking he knew what women would like. But I just think if women were actually in charge of some of those things, the stores would look totally different. And now they look a little different now than they used to, but still, it's like, it's just a weird vibe I get every time that I go in there. I feel like the pink side is more, geared towards women and seems more inviting. And still, the Victoria's Secret side seems super dated to me. So when I was younger, and sometimes even now, which I really don't think I'm a prude, like, I really don't think I am. But I felt like Victoria's Secret pictures, like the posters that were in the store, were like pornographic. That made me super uncomfortable. And what kind of pissed me off was they always tried to act like they were so much better than like Frederick's or any trashy lingerie store. I think they just had better lighting and maybe better photographers, but like it still looks like a hustler store when you go in there, in my opinion. And to me, that's not really with women in mind that they would put up these kinds of posters. It's like people who are attracted to women would really enjoy those posters. But me, as a tragically straight woman, going into that store, I don't look at those pictures and go, oh my God, like she's beautiful. Those underwear look so cute and so comfy. No, I'm like, damn, how'd she get in that position? Which again, there's like nothing necessarily wrong with that, but just how are you going to say that you've designed this with women in mind to make it like a place that they're comfortable in when it makes me so uncomfy? You know what I'm saying? And again, please let me know if I am alone in this, but that's kind of how I feel. So, the big kicker for me and the thing that really pissed me off was finding out the truth behind Les Wexner making up Victoria. So, in Jack's song, she says Victoria was made up by a dude. And like, I was kind of like, okay, I can get that like Victoria was never a real person, that it was just like this personification of the brand, and it was created by Les Wexner. I keep wanting to say Lex Wexner or something. Les Wexner. But I didn't realize how far he went with this. And I was like seething watching this scene because I was just so upset. So, right after he purchased the Victoria's Secret brand in the business, he kept some things going very similarly to how they had run before, but then some things he totally changed. And as time went on, he made it more of his brand and, totally far away from what it once was. And so he ended up making these training videos, and he talked about Victoria. He created this character, and Victoria was this girl who came from a family that was good with business and had money, and her dad, instilled these philosophies in her and taught her how to have like a thriving business, and she was educated and she rode horses and like he had pictures, and like when they're going through the pictures you're like, oh, this isn't even the same woman. They just look kind of similar. So like white with brown hair, basically. But he romanticized the story of Victoria, and his employees like had somebody to look up to, somebody to model their behavior after, because, Victoria was well mannered and polite and just wanted to feel good in her own skin. So it went so far that some people did not realize that Victoria was not a real person. They thought she was real, and they asked, when are we going to meet her? Why isn't she at any of our meetings or our conferences? Is she still alive? Like, what's going on? And it was only the higher ups that knew it was all bullshit and that he had just made this up as like a training thing, a fictional character. And so for a long time, some people didn't even know who Les was. They just knew Victoria as like their leader that they never got to see. So I think that's pretty fucked up that you would do that and mislead all of these people to think that they're working for like a women owned business and they are not. And to then just change your image so rapidly because of money and greed and being nasty, in my opinion. Just being kind of creepy. And one of the women that was interviewed for this documentary, I really like her and a lot of the things that she's talked about, but she has definitely like continued to defend the brand and support it, it seems like. And she said they were giving women permission to treat themselves through Victoria's Secret, through these stores and the way they were selling their product and the way they were photographing their product. But then I just wrote, at what cost? Yeah, sometimes women feel good about themselves because they're able to go spend money and buy themselves something nice. But how many times has that brand made them feel less than, made them feel fat, made them feel ugly, made them feel like they didn't deserve to even shop in that store or step foot inside? So, like, at what cost? And was it worth it? I mean, I kind of think no, but I'm pretty salty right now. So Okay, so now I want to go back to Les owning lots of different stores, basically in the mall. Like it seems like you could walk into the mall in its prime and just throw a ball and hit a Les Wexner store, something that was owned by him in some capacity. And so this man basically invented fast fashion. And basically, what he would do was go over to Europe multiple times a year and check out the designers there in France and Italy and see what they were doing and then recreate it with cheaper fabrics and less features. If there was any kind of metal that he could switch out for something else, or like just use cheaper materials, and then also started outsourcing his work to a third world country where wages are very, very low. And so that's why he was able to sell like a knockoff sweater for $35 instead of $350 like it would sell for in France or something like that. I don't know the numbers, but you get what I'm saying. And so he kind of invented this need to constantly be buying new clothes and having trendy items and bringing like higher end fashion to a more affordable level, that a regular consumer in America could purchase and purchase multiple times if they needed to. And so, what people have said about Les is that he steals everything, and that by the time it is ending up in one of his stores, it is like no longer in fashion. Like he has ruined it basically. And so, people in the fashion industry did not see him as any kind of expert or any kind of person to look up to. And they just felt like what he did was cheap and amateur. But this is how he made his fortune and was able to get filthy rich. So obviously he didn't care. So then at the end of the first episode of this documentary, they show footage from a Victoria's Secret Angels fashion show. And it was so fucking cringy. Like it was hard to watch, to be totally honest. First of all, there were like these behind the scene cameras kind of thing. And like you would see somebody talking to a model and she like has her she's on, and she's all bubbly and talking about how excited she is. And then like as soon as that camera goes off, she just like melts into her seat and like like she did not want to be there. They all just looked miserable. And then they showed like interviews from these random dudes who were at the shows, and they were being so gross. Like they were talking to each other about how, their reasons for being here was wholesome, even though they had no work to do and they've never been interested in fashion before. Like they obviously just want to see women in their underwear parading around. And something they pointed out was at normal, like designer fashion shows, like high fashion runway shows, there are hardly any men there. There are a lot of women and a handful of men who really appreciate fashion and are interested in it. Meanwhile, the Victoria's Secret show was like mainly men. And even the footage, I'm like, I don't know if I saw one woman sitting out in the audience. I'm sure there was a couple, but it looked like mostly men, lots of older men. They looked very wealthy and like they knew shit about fashion. Like they were just there to see the models, is what it seemed like. And of course, in this footage, you see like Tyra Banks and Heidi Klum and lots of other models that I recognize, but I can't remember their names. And, that's how they got their names out there. That's how they became household names here in America. But one of the clips is Heidi talking about their commercials. And she said that they would like do the A B testing. Like, I'm sure if you've done anything with marketing or business, you know about it. But they would make a commercial that was for the women, like even a radio commercial, that talked about high end fabrics and comfortable, underwear and bras, and seeing the beautiful pieces of art that Victoria's Secret had made. And then the man's version of the commercial was literally like, see lots of tall, toned women in very little clothes, or something super fucking cringy like that. And so, like, that also pissed me off. And I don't know if you remember, but they, for one of their first shows that was available online, they made this huge to do that Victoria's Secret broke the internet. But really, just their website crashed from all the people trying to log in and see the show all at once. But they got it resolved like before the show even started. But they, of course, used that to their advantage when it came to headlines the next couple days and marketing the show. And so basically, Les Wexner and whoever his main marketing guy was, they said, these women of the 90s and the early 2000s, they are ready to no longer be modest, to let themselves show off a little bit and be comfortable in their own skin. And supposedly, Victoria's Secret just kind of hopped on that wagon and then did their version of what they thought that looked like, which was super sexy, way over the top, everything. Michael Bay ended up directing some of their commercials. He did the Transformer movies, I think, and I don't know what else, but even the models were talking in this documentary about like how there were explosions and stuff for like underwear. Like, what the fuck? What woman wants to see that kind of commercial? No woman. No woman that's like trying to buy her own underwear. I don't know, to make it look like an action movie. It just seems like the men running this company, even though there are, from what I understand, quite a few women in leadership roles in the company, just not high enough to nix some of those really, really bad ideas. And of course, yeah, Victoria's Secret still is making tons of money, I'm sure, but not necessarily serving their target audience really well because they're not listening to us. I know women have asked for extended sizing at Victoria's Secret for a very long time. And I think maybe they've extended a little bit more at this point. But like when your large fits like a small, you've got a really long ways to go, in my opinion, anyway. I'm sorry. I feel like this is getting a little scattered. I just have so many thoughts and feelings that keep like coming up and I don't want to miss any of them. And so I think that's a lot of what I learned in like the first episode of the documentary. The second episode was mainly about Les Wexner, who owns the company, and I learned a lot of things. One, that he's from Ohio. I did not know that. Even in Columbus, he has like donated tons of stuff, and like Ohio State has tons of labs and different stadiums and shit like named after him, like with his name on it. And then he owns like all of New Albany and designed it all and lives there and made this like crazy expensive community. And like I always knew New Albany was up north, and I just thought it was like a hoity toity farm town because I guess we have those in Ohio. And I guess it is, but it's also owned by Les Wexner, which I never knew. And then there were also lots of other shady details about how Jeffrey Epstein was definitely influencing some of Les's decisions and some ways that the business was moving. And he ended up approaching some models that worked for Victoria's Secret, saying that, you know, he wanted to meet with them, trying to act like he was working with and for Victoria's Secret, but he never was. He ended up buying Les Wexner's jet for like an insanely good deal and like the guest house that was on Les's property. So just like a lot of fishy, uncomfy things happening there. I don't remember all of the details on that, but it was just very interesting, very scary, very sad watching those episodes. And I just know that Victoria's Secret has made me feel like shit for most of my life. Oh, and one thing that I definitely wanted to talk about was one woman who was doing the documentary and being interviewed. She said that even though these models were insanely thin, like insanely, they still did tons of retouching on their catalog images and the images that went in their posters in their stores and things like that. So she said these models were on very strict diets, very specific like exercise routines that were to like work certain parts of their bodies, you know, and then they were getting plastic surgery. Sorry, my AC just kicked on, if you can hear that. But then they were getting plastic surgery to manipulate parts of their bodies that they couldn't do with diet and exercise. So they're already unattainable and unrealistic as it is. And then the amount of retouching going into it was insane. One of the clips, like this girl is already teeny tiny. And I swear, they took like 2 inches off of both of her sides, just like in Photoshop or whatever, which is probably like making her 2 sizes smaller than she already was. It's just like they did not want Victoria's Secret to be attainable at all. Like the images of those women. Lex said he wanted it to look like Playboy. He wanted it to be tasteful, but sexy and elegant and empowering, but I think he just missed the mark. We don't want to see fake women. We want to see real women because they are beautiful. And not saying these models aren't beautiful, because they are, but I think they deserve so much better. And we would love to see the real girls who model for Victoria's Secret. I would love to start seeing some plus, like actual plus size models model for them eventually. Oh, and another store he owned was like Abercrombie and Fitch. And Dylan and I were even talking about how even the guys from that store, like the posters and stuff and the bags, like the picture on the bags, these dudes were ripped and oily and greasy. And it's like, this is a place where high school students shop. I know now some older people are probably shopping there, like people my age, and they've extended their sizing some, a decent amount. But again, who is your target audience? It just seems like predator behavior to me sometimes. So, those are my thoughts on the Victoria's Secret documentary. I hope that this was insightful in some way. I would recommend you at least watch that first episode if you watched nothing else. I'm hoping to continue the series and finish it hopefully by the end of the month, just so that I know what happens and kind of where the company is standing now. But you might have to get your tissues. Like, I didn't need them while I was watching, but just that evening and the next couple days as I was kind of mulling over how I've been personally victimized and attacked by Victoria's Secret, it feels like. Then I need my tissues to deal with some of those feelings. And again, I'm just so happy that the world is changing. What is normal has changed, and we can hopefully live happy, healthier lives because we have people standing up against brands like Victoria's Secret and demanding more because we deserve it. So thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you in my next one.